A social media influencer was arrested for allegedly throwing a tampon at bouncers who were removing her from a club. Well, at least we know why she was acting that way. Should I just go home? I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna go home.
Hold on a second here. Got one thing to do. Okay. So we have a great show lineup for you guys this week. So please be sure to continue the conversations both in the chat as well as the comment section. On this week's HBR News, we're going to be talking about the latest from Telegram's Pavel Durov. A judge in Brazil seeks to ban X, and I think they may have actually succeeded in it. Experts warn of the return of... can I say it? The return of the cough, the Coof, the thing from a few years ago, and more. So stick around; it's going to be a good time. And be sure to join us afterwards for the patron-only show. So on this week's, are you guys able to hear this? Oh, okay, you guys can hear it. So for the patron show, we got this story, which is just weird, but appropriately so, because that's not the first time we've ever seen this. Ellie Sedgwick, this is reported by the Daily Mail, which is usually good for
no, it is not. Whatever you're about to say, no, it is not.
Okay, Ellie Sedgwick was going to have surgery to fix her vulva until she asked 500 women to show her theirs. Now she's on a mission to get her book Flip Through My Flaps into Australian schools.
I don't even understand what that means. Wait, what?
Flip Through My Flaps, where she photographed 500 women's vulvas, and apparently she's going to be getting them into Australian schools. Homeschool your kids, folks.
I still don't understand. She wants a flip book of her cunt?
She's like the flaps, like her labias. Like that's what she means by flaps. Flip through my flaps.
But okay, I'll save it.
We'll talk about it in the patron show. So this is standard fare for I'm just gonna throw it out there, probably feminist thinking, but maybe even just women thinking. I don't know. I'm kind of at that point where it's so blurry where these things meet that I'm not sure there's much of a difference. But if you want to join us on this adventure through the flaps, you have to become a badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com and setting up a monthly subscription. $5 a month will get you into our Discord server where you'll be able to watch all of the additional content, including the 500 vulvas that apparently we're going to be discussing, as well as lots of other bonus content, and like there's various groups and events that go on in the server. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, we hopefully will see you all there. And if you don't want to wake up one morning to find that we have been swallowed up by the 500 vulvas because of our dangerous content, then please consider going to badgerfeed.com. That's badgerfeed.com. That's where all of our content lives. So without further ado, let's get away from vulvas and get into
this is Sparta. We don't have 500, we have 300.
Yes. So speaking of body parts, this has been the talk of the internet for a while because of how funny it is. I'm not going to be able to show the whole thing, but
You can't
I'm
show
not,
the bulges.
I'm not sure I can show the bulges. Yeah, I mean, I can give you a glimpse, but so what happened here is we have these women, and they have put out a video essentially promoting their OnlyFans. They're OnlyFans girls that are essentially pretending to be trans women so that they can drive more traffic. Hence, they're doing this dance with these bulges. And they got the trans women really upset. And so, yeah, here's this. Colin Rugg says, new trans people are currently fuming over 2 female OnlyFans creators pretending to be trans to sell their OnlyFans subscriptions. The trans community is lashing out, saying the women are pretending to be gender that they are not.
How do you even? I mean, everyone's already expressed some iteration of the phrase. How do you even? But yeah.
Some are even wishing death upon these women for changing their gender. People like this need to hang in the gallows. People, you should kill yourself, you stupid broke bitch. Get out of our spaces. I've always wanted to curb stomp 2 people at once with both feet. Oh, the irony. But
So
can I just say that? Go ahead.
Does this count as changing your gender? Because that's what seems to have been implied by the comment just now. That if you're a woman and you say you're a man pretending to be a woman, that means you've changed your gender, because gender is not the same as sex, right? Are we at the point where we can agree on that? Because that's a point of contention, that gender is not the same as sex. And so these women that are putting limp rubber dildos in their panties and pretending to be women, that means
what? Pretending to be trans women.
No, they're pretending to be men. They're pretending to be not trans men, and therefore they are trans women. Trans women. But we can't say pretend, right? Because
no, they're not pretending.
It's a jailable offense to say that someone is pretending to be the gender that they're not.
Yes,
but I guess they're pretending to be the gender that they are. And
they're pretending to be a person who is pretending to be a gender that they're not.
What is a woman?
The dude. I'm the dude dressed up like a dude.
Like, how do we even answer the question, what is a woman, when it appears to have disappeared up itself? And yes, I do mean it appears to have disappeared.
I'm the dude playing the dude dressed up like another dude. Well, I got 2 things to say about this. One, biological women are over officially. If the OnlyFans models have to pretend to be trans women to get more traffic to their site, it's over for women. Like, it's all over for regular women. So the RIP biological women, because now this is the new fleek. This is the new thing that we have to do to keep up with the changing. Sorry, ladies, but you're over. You're done. Women are cooked. It's over for women. It's over.
What if people develop a fetish for women who pretend to be men who pretend to be women? I mean, that's a perfectly legitimate subsection of porn, right? I mean,
I'm sure it is.
There are some people who just like women, and those people are mental, right? Those people are the scourge of the gaming industry. Men who like women. Ugh! Get rid of all of them.
The ones with wombs.
But then there are men who like men who pretend to be women, and that's fine. That's the natural order of things. But men who like women who pretend to be men who pretend to. I've already lost track of what I'm even talking about.
It's true inception. Oh, don't think about it too much and just have a good time. The other thing I wanted to say about this is, once again, this is just another instance where men are enjoying something and women just have to get in there and make it all about themselves. So what, guys, troons in the chat, gatekeep your gender, I guess, because women are always looking to get in there so that they can steal some of that shit from you. They're gonna change it. Transgenderism is never gonna be the same now that women got their hooks in. So I just think this is really funny, and it is something that's creating quite a conversation, especially when the trans activists are like, you can't do that because you're not really the thing that you say you are.
Like a question you need to present to people is, when has it gone too far? Like whatever your political approach is, whatever your socio-political approach is, the question that should be asked is, okay, I respect your extremism, but at what point has your extremism gone too far? And this is just a stopgap in the progression of when the fuck has it gone too far.
Yes. So yeah, trannies, you got to gatekeep harder. Don't let them take this from you. It's like the only place. It started with the gamers. I told you. And now women are just wearing dicks like a costume. My gender is not your costume.
They did this in the in the 18th century or the night whenever Casanova was around. There was I'm reminded of this BBC series that they did about Casanova. It was played by David Tennant. It's what he did before he was Doctor Who. I think that was what got him on the radar of the people who were looking for potential Doctor Who's. He did a BBC series called Casanova, and one of the many women who fell in love with him was this woman who wore a prosthetic penis, because apparently these were things in the 1800s. So
Can we just call those dildos?
Yeah, and one would say is because there were some high class women who were determined to get all of the privileges that high class men had, and so they would present as men, including wearing a prosthetic penis. And this is not just something that is only afforded to those who have plastic and rubber. There were always things available, and you could, back in the Oscar Wilde days, you could present an argument along that women could achieve higher status if they could pretend to be men, because in those days men had more responsibilities and more rights. Yes, we can say that nowadays men have more responsibilities and fewer rights. But in those days, it was delineated that if you were a man, you could influence those in the upper echelons of society, just by convincing people, by passing, if you will, as a man. And yeah, now we've reached the inversion of that. That it's obvious to everyone that if you can pass as a woman, then you can get all the advantages of a society that clearly prefers women. But it's bizarre that it's only just now that the people have been displaying these fake rubber penises and saying, "Here, if you display this rubber penis, then you can get ahead in life." But that's only the tip of the iceberg of this.
Oh,
the rest of the iceberg, the 90% of the iceberg that's below the surface, is that if you cut your dick off altogether, and you happen to be slight enough, sylph-like enough to pass as a woman, then you can get all the benefits of being a woman. You can bend the ear of the powers that be, and you can bend the ear of the average working class man on the street, because at this point men don't have any of the rights or any women have all of the rights and none of the responsibilities. So yeah, I know a lot of idiot midwit leftists will be saying, "Well, 200 years ago, you were at an advantage for being a man." And so, yeah, but now in the present day, the only advantages you get are from being a woman. Except on OnlyFans or on TikTok, where you get an extra advantage if you're a man who successfully pretends to be a woman, because it's no longer good enough to be a woman. Now you have to be someone who exorcises any hint of masculinity.
Yep.
And so that's why a man who is no longer a man has higher status in the progressive stack than a woman who was never a man, because you've sloughed that male skin. You've done away with the original sin of being male, or dare I say masculine. And it's, yeah, I've lost track of what I'm saying. This frequently happens when I'm trying to
That's okay.
do this because it's so fucking complicated.
So yeah, it's over for women. They're done.
It's over for
cast out.
It's over for a gender binary.
Yes.
It's over for the idea that there was ever a distinction between men and women. No, there isn't anymore. You're just this inconceivable pile of human matter, and what you are is what we say you are. And when I say we, I mean the fucking government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, let us know what you guys think about that one. It was just a short one. I thought it was funny. Let me know in the comments. I don't think that it's worth getting worked up over no matter what, so I'm not worked up. NovaFan21, though, gave us a kind donation, or can I say that? I don't know, for $1, and said, these women are either double agent trans or they are ascended trans. Next will be an ascended level of ascended trans, otherwise known as super trans 2. Yes, I can't wait for, ultra instinct trans. That's gonna come. We're gonna see that. All right, well, anyway, let me know what you guys think. Thanks for the Rumble rant, Nova fan. We're gonna move on to the actual first story, which is a follow-up on Pavel Durov. I'm sorry, I'm butchering that, but all right. So Pavel Durov, the founder of Telegram, you guys know we covered this last week. He was arrested in France on August 24, 2024 at Le Bourget airport. He is now facing up to 20 years in prison if he is convicted on the charges against him. What could the charges against him be? Complicity in managing an online platform to allow illicit transactions by an organized group. It's all very legalistic and vague.
It's something every social media group does.
Yeah,
as long as
every social media
group
has it.
As long as the organized group in question is the government.
Mm-hmm. Refusal to communicate information or documents necessary for legal inceptions, and complicity in offering tools designed to damage automated data processing systems. The arrest and subsequent charges stem from a preliminary investigation opened in July of 2024 by French authorities, focusing on Telegram's alleged role in facilitating criminal activities, including child exploitation, material, this is what they're claiming, drug sales, and more, due to what was described as a near total absence of response to judicial requests for user data. Durov, so they wanted the data on people who use Telegram, and he would not give it to them. That's good because where I'm on Telegram, there's like an MRM page that I'm in, and they're like, my church is on Telegram. So Durov, who holds multiple citizenships, including Russia, France, and the UAE, and St. Kitts and Nevis, I hope I'm not pronouncing that wrong, was ordered to pay 5 million euros in bail and is restricted from leaving France. He must report to a police station twice a week as part of his supervised release conditions. The case has sparked discussions on freedom of speech, privacy, and the responsibilities of platform owners in moderating content, with some viewing Durov's arrest as an attack on digital liberties. However, French authorities and legal proceedings emphasize the investigation's focus on supposed criminal activities facilitated by the platform rather than censorship issues.
I'm reminded of a meme that I saw many years ago, up to 10 years ago. I can't remember. Two panels. First panel: hi, I'm Julian Assange. I give private information on corporations and governments to you for free, and the media calls me a criminal. Next panel: hi, I'm Mark Zuckerberg. I give your private information to corporations and governments for money, and the media called me Man of the Year. And I remember it to this day. It might be the best meme I've ever seen. It's the kind of meme you can show to boomer normie NPCs to sort of begin to try and crack open that shell and maybe nudge them in the direction of a point of perspective. Like maybe the media is full of shit. The media that you sit transfixed in front of every day for 40 years. I mean, even churches only expect you to listen on Sundays. Even mosques, like they give you a break once in a while, but the government goggle box in every living room in the country, the various countries, and it has had people receptively listening to their government-sanctioned sermons literally every day for an entire human lifetime at this point. It's extraordinarily difficult to even begin to convince people that that thing is full of shit. Like, how come the media just overlooks all the shit that Mark Zuckerberg has done? Little did I know how much spicier this situation would get 10 years down the line. I'm gonna be slow and careful in how I word this, but let's say it could be interpreted that Mark Zuckerberg recently confessed to a crime, and we are not talking about a misdemeanor, folks. We're talking when you, as a giant corporation, voluntarily collude with a government, a giant government no less, and its associated agencies in order to interfere with an upcoming election. Some might call that fascism, and some might call it treason. And yes, you're both correct to the extent that either of these terms can be applied to a constitutional republic. Yes, indeed, Mark Zuckerberg's actions are not just treason, but fascist treason. As I said, that's simply how one might interpret the situation. I don't know. I'm not even a biologist who identifies as legal advice, but whatever it is Mark Zuckerberg did, he has confessed to it. I'm not even sure what it is Pavel Durov is supposed to have been charged, let alone to have maybe confessed to. It's just weird how all these people who claim to despise fascism and devote their every waking moment to dismantling fascism, they don't seem to mind when it constantly happens. They'd rather arrest the founder of any private company that does not collude with the government. We are many, many layers deep into an invasion of our language, folks. Words don't mean anything anymore. Words mean their own opposites, as and when it is convenient for for the sophists in question to tactically code switch between various contradictory states of matter. Alexa, why should I vote for Kamala? Why do you ask? I have no reason. But yeah, you know what I'm talking about there. But yeah, I know I've been beating a similar drum for a while now, with constantly blaming everything on the TV. But honestly, it all starts with language and the devices used to control language. We can't even begin to unravel this downward spiral of geopolitical bedlam we found ourselves in until we can at least figure out how to talk to each other, until we can at least agree on what words mean. It's a Tower of Babel situation.
It is.
The closer you get to a one world government, the more you notice your communications breaking down. So we all need to get into the habit of asking, what do you mean by that? I know it sounds autistic. I know it can be overused in an evasive way, but the much bigger problem is when we rush into a heated argument using words that mean completely different things to one another. Mark Zuckerberg is a confessed fascist traitor. Allegedly, of course, I have to say that. Whereas
Confessed, but allegedly.
Pavel Durov has done nothing but stand in the way of fascist treachery simply by being there and letting people talk. So if anyone is out here calling Pavel Durov a fascist traitor, or for that matter, calling Elon Musk a fascist traitor, while completely ignoring Mark Zuckerberg, I cannot possibly have an argument with such a mindset until I have unraveled what on earth is going on in such a vocabulary. And if you can't unravel it, if you just can't get through that network of spider webs installed by the government goggle box that's installed on the wall of most homes, then there really is nothing you can do. It is an option to just change the subject, move on, and try to get along as best you can, especially if it's a family member. You argue with online randos all you like, but because fuck them. But don't push too hard on the people who actually matter in your personal, non-political life. Family is more important than politics, no matter how extreme the politics may be. Honestly, this is. If it's not worth it, then it's not worth it. Yeah, sorry for the tautology, but at least it's an original tautology. I hereby coin it. If it's not worth it, then it's not worth it, and it is what it is. And I am what I am, and a man is a man. Whoops, that one was hate speech. Oh well, I'll see you in jail.
Okay, so Telegram has been around since 2013.
Yeah.
And they arrested him like this week. This means that Telegram was beneath the notice of these governments until it wasn't. Now, I'm going to name some countries, some whose governments I believe are not our friends, and that there is collusion going on at this highest level. And I might be wrong, but I don't think I am. So because of things that I have seen, for example, the European Union, definitely not our friends. And I believe we're involved with this, but also in other areas they have expressed concerns, that's usually how it starts, with Elon Musk's platform X. Not just the Brazilian judge, who I'm getting to in the next story, but a lot of these global homo gay race communist governments they hate X existing. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting about this guy is that, you know, he was on Tucker Carlson's show recently, and I never knew Pavel before that. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know who came up with Telegram. I don't know the story behind it, but I know that he went on Tucker, like, it was like not long ago at all, maybe a week ago, maybe two at the most, and they picked him up, and Meredith G sent a super chow. I might as well read it because I was going to bring this up, but since she sent the money, I'll give her credit for this. She said for $5, HBR News 470, keep in mind that France didn't issue a warrant for Durov. They couldn't get the warrant to arrest him. They had to trick him into traveling out of his way to France to entrap him. So, and what we're seeing, Mike, you mentioned Julian Assange. What we're seeing is something just like that. It's not even that Durov has done anything bad. It's that he's allowing people to speak and share information. So the US government, the European Union, probably the UK government, the Canadian government, the Israel government, they're all like, Ukraine, Ukraine's not really a country, but they're doing so essentially acting on the orders of our government, the US government. And they're not going after misinformation. They're not going after disinformation. They're going after malinformation, which is essentially information that is in fact true, but you shouldn't say it anyway because it's dangerous. And the reason why I mentioned Tucker is that because he has essentially been involved. I've been watching his show. It's overtaken Joe Rogan from what I heard at one point. There were more people watching Tucker than Joe Rogan, especially men. And he's had on guests that have been very controversial. And he's talked about things that are pretty controversial. Need I remind you, another journalist, Gonzalo Lira, known as Coach Red Pill, went into Ukraine, or he was there already or whatever, and was arrested when he was trying to flee to Russia and died in a prison in a Ukrainian prison for nothing. And his father was on Tucker Carlson talking about that very thing. And so what I think is going on here, and there was a guest that Tucker had on just yesterday. He was like a historian, and he does like very long podcasts where he goes into very deep dives on things like World War II, World War I, the 60s, Jonestown. He did really interesting stuff because his goal was to get to the absolute truth of everything. And a lot of these stuff gets presented to us in a very like simplistic black and white terms, and he gave us like a lot more nuance in that department. I thought it was really good. And now he is being threatened online, being called all these things, a newtsie, etc. So I think that I think that they're going to bend or break the law as much as possible to keep people like Pavel Durov from allowing people to speak. It's not even that he's speaking. He's not even a whistleblower. He's nothing like that. He's a guy who runs a platform. And they're like, this platform has got to go. So they're basically holding him there, and they're going to go through Telegram, whatever, and I guess they're going to try to, and find any justification to either give themselves authoritative oversight over Telegram or to get rid of it altogether, like what they're calling for in terms of X or Twitter. So it's dark, but we know that they're doing it, and they know that we know that they know that they're doing it. So I guess there's that. So I see Hannah has shown up.
Yeah, I'm finally here.
Okay. Yeah, it's okay. We're just finishing up the first story, so let me just give you a mouth to speak. Put that in there. Okay. So so that we just did the first story, which is Pavel Durov's arrest. We talked about him last week. He was the guy who created Telegram. And I was pointing out that he founded Telegram in 2013, and they didn't come after him until this year. And yes, it is an election year. And yes, I think that's got a lot to do with it. But I think there's just a number of other things. I think that there's Like the governments of the world are accustomed to a certain level of power and control over information, and people like Pavel Durov is essentially a threat to that power, and so they're going to do whatever they can to stop him, even if it's, you know, not quite legal. So there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Hannah, did you want to say anything? Do you know the story very well, or?
The only thing I would say, just based on looking at the write-up, is this. The reason that the United States removed liability when it comes to like libel, slander, defamation on public media, social media, is because it is a public platform. It's like the town square, and it's damn near impossible for them to police that. They would have to literally just watch everybody's account and fact check everything everybody said in order to do that. And that is similar enough in regard to transactions and stuff like that, that unless something is reported to them, they don't really have a great way of policing that either. And in terms of items that should not be getting sent over electronic media, so illegal transactions, items that are illegal, illegal media, things like that, the person who sent it has to be the one responsible. And if the person who received it because they solicited it, and it can be proved that they paid for it and it's an illegal thing, then they should be responsible. But if somebody's scamming somebody, the scammer has to be responsible. The platform, there's not a whole lot the platform can logistically do to protect people from that any more than the phone companies can be responsible for what phone calls you get, and any more than, you know, the U.S. Postal Service can be responsible for what people send you in the mail, right? There's a lot that they cannot confirm or prove, and people have to understand that that's bullshit if a government is charging a company for that. Now, if it's proved that there was like a cheese pizza ring, and everybody was aware, including the people running the platform, that this was happening and they did nothing about it, that's a different story, Jack Dorsey. But and yeah. Not that I was one of the people that reported that and got suspended for reporting that to them, that hey, this is going on and you should do something about it. Oh, okay, well we'll ban the person who reported it. I'm not the only one either that was penalized for reporting. There's a guy that was not just suspended for a while; he was flat out permanent banned for reporting. But
I just want to make a point of clarification. Meredith G said that Durov's arrest isn't what is being said in public. It's about the private messages that he will not give governments open access to.
Well, they should have to subpoena that. That's just like any other, like that. I don't know how totalitarian France is with their court system, but any process that any other citizen has a right to, the users of that platform should also have a right. And if they're not users from France, then that adds a further layer of complication.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you for that, Meredith and Hannah. We're going to move on to the next story. This is a bit of a bigger one, but it's related because I think there's a reason why all this stuff is happening at the same time. I mean, I think so. I don't believe in coincidences. So let us know what you guys think about this in the comments. I'm going to go ahead and talk about Elon Musk versus this Brazilian judge who looks like he should be, trying to destroy Toontown. The social media scene has been on fire lately after the French government arrested the creator and owner of messaging app Telegram. But the hits don't stop coming, and they 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 don't stop coming. Last Friday, a Brazilian Supreme Court justice by the name of Justice Alejandra de Moraes ordered the suspension of Musk's Twitter app in Brazil. The suspension comes on the heels of Justice Moraes' demand that Musk name a representative for the company in the country, which Musk did not do. In his decision, Justice Moraes described the reasoning, quote, Elon Musk showed his total disrespect for Brazilian sovereignty and in particular for the judiciary, setting himself up as a true supranational entity and immune to the laws of each country, end quote. Justice Moraes set a 5-day deadline for both Google and Apple to remove the app from their Brazilian app stores and issued a warning that anyone caught browsing the website through a VPN could be forced to pay a daily fine roughly equivalent to $8,900 USD. Musk tells the story differently than Justice Moraes, saying, quote, when we attempted to defend ourselves in court, Judge de Moraes threatened our Brazilian legal representative with imprisonment. Even after she resigned, he froze all of her bank accounts. Our challenges against his manifestly illegal actions were either dismissed or ignored. Judge de Moraes' colleagues on the Supreme Court are either unwilling or unable to stand up to him, end quote. Musk and this particular justice butted heads in the past over his refusal to block certain users' accounts. Following Musk's vow that he would continue to fight this action, Justice Moraes took things another step forward and froze the finances of Musk's other venture, Starlink, in Brazil. Musk addressed that situation by stating, quote, this order is based on an unfounded determination that Starlink should be responsible for the fines levied unconstitutionally against X. It was issued in secret and without affording Starlink any of the due process of law guaranteed by the Constitution of Brazil. We intend to address the matter legally, end quote. Justice Moraes countered that Twitter did not have enough money in its Brazilian accounts to pay for the fines and reasoned, since the two companies use the same parent company, taking the funds from one to pay for the other was within reason. Until the matter is settled, Musk has made Starlink free to Brazil-based customers, which is based. It should be noted that for the time being, the Brazilian government still runs their own Twitter account, seemingly without firing themselves.
Or finding themselves.
That's right.
People are looking at this as though it's an unprecedented escalation of the wave of censorship, like it's a mechanism that hasn't been employed until now. But this is simply a development of what has always been employed. It's not just the tip of the spear, it's several feet along the shaft of the spear as it's slowly pushed through you and your nation. The spear itself is what international governments have been doing to social media companies for a couple of decades now. But what normally happens is they comply. The social media companies get a knock on the door. They hear FBI, open up, and the rest is history. For Brazil, read whatever the Brazilian equivalent of the deep state is. Every state has such an equivalent. The larger the population, the more ruthless its deep state is, and Brazil it's the superpower of the Southern Hemisphere. It's the same with China, Russia, USA, any superpower, with the possible exception of India. that does appear to be nothing but a maelstrom of wandering Pajeets shitting in the street. But I digress. I hereby
Oh my goodness!
I hereby digress.
You bloody fuck you bloody.
But I hereby digress, unburdened by what has been. The point is, everyone in the world needs to be pressing their own governments for their reaction to what's going on in Brazil. Just like a month or so ago when Keir Starmer's Stasi claimed they would extradite Americans for saying naughty things. Like, I know you're all laughing going, you can't fucking do that. This is what we fought this fucking war for. But yeah, you should have asked your presidential candidates for their reaction to that threat. I know it sounds absurd that an American president or presidential candidate would ever submit to the capricious so-called justice of another country, let alone the UK. But you have no idea how absurd things could get if Kamala Harris is allowed to run rampant for another 4 years, unburdened by what has been. Similar.
Yeah,
thing,
she might actually do that.
Yeah, she actually might. Similar thing going on here. You really ought to be asking your presidential candidates how they feel about what's being done to Twitter, an American company, and what's being done to it by the Brazilian government, or rather, it's not even. It's the Undertaker and Paul Bearer illegally acting as dictators of what is ostensibly a democracy. Needless to say, Kamala hasn't said anything on the subject, and people have been led to believe that that's because she wants this for America. And that's a reasonable conclusion. But I mean, Kamala has barely said a goddamn thing about anything, so that's not surprising. But I'd like to know what Trump thinks about all this. I'd like to know what RFK thinks. Has anyone else chimed in on this subject? Because this would be a bloody good time to do so, right? Have I missed anything? Chat, has Trump chimed in on this? I'd like to think I already know what he would say, but I'd like to hear it from the horse's mouth, nevertheless. But far be it from me to expect an answer. I am a foreigner to this land. I expect an answer from Keir Starmer, and I know what it is. It's fuck you. But you all deserve an answer. I hope you get one in the nearest of futures.
Yeah, I'm just a cursory look doesn't actually raise anything about Trump saying anything. Mother Jones brought his name up, but they're really left-wing publication. But kind of interesting.
Yeah,
We should see what he would say about it, because I'm pretty sure he'd have some pretty firebrand things to say about it, because he has previously been very much a sort of protectionist of America. And if he were asked about something like that, I would expect to hear from him, something along the lines of a much more polite version of "fuck Brazil. This is an American company. They need to straighten their shit out." But it would be actually nice to hear him say it. And I'm sure that if this continues and it gains traction as a story, a thing that's happening, we probably will hear from Trump. I doubt that we'll hear from Kamala Harris unless she gets pressured into, you got to say something because everybody is looking at you for some response to this. And even then, she'll try to sound diplomatic and she'll end up just sounding stupid because she is. But you're right, this is not new. I go back to the Suad Fares incident. Oh God, she always sounds drunk. I'm sorry. There is something about the way she talks. She always sounds drunk.
I think she is often drunk. I think.
Yeah, that might be. It might just be that she really is drunk, and that's why she sounds like that.
I saw a clip of her talking somewhere, and she was really slurring her words. It was like more than normal. It's like, oh yeah, you are ripped. You are
one of those
faded,
instances
as we
where
say in the streets.
I want to use the term wine mom and actually not spell it with an H. Because usually I do like to add that H in there. But yeah, I Kamala scares me in terms of how not dedicated to the United States she is. I think that if another country came along and wanted to run over to the United States, she would let it happen. Just like
her signatures will be on the executive orders and shit, but she's not actually running the country. I mean, she's not like Joe isn't running the country right now. Whoever, it's not him, it's not her, it's somebody else. There's like, you know, somebody else, because Joe is not.
Yeah, we know
calling
who
any
somebody
shots
else
right.
is. Yeah,
I
we
have,
know.
I have my theories.
You
I
know,
will not
the,
share
the,
them here.
the guy who dresses like Dr. Evil. Like that's who's running our country right now. And we know it. We're fully aware of it. We're not happy about it. We want it back. And we're we're mad as hell and we're not going to take it anymore. But no, I would be terrified even if she was running. Actually, I'd probably be even more terrified if she was running the country, because it'd be like letting your cat drive your car. You know, she's about as smart about government as a cat is about driving a car. But in terms of in regard to this situation, this is not the first time that a country has tried to do this with an American company, that American social media company. In fact, Twitter complied with the UK's demands that Suad Fares's name be edited out, or people be suspended or made to delete tweets and so on, when they talked about the false allegations against Mark Pearson and the ordeal he went through. I actually had tweets that I was forced to delete because of that, and they shadow banned accounts and hid links to the A Voice for Men news articles about that, because they mentioned her name. And that was I want to say that was before COVID. That was quite a while ago. So they've been doing this for a long time. It's just that now they're getting told no. They're actually getting a resounding fuck you from Elon Musk in again, you know, business polite terms, but the same language nonetheless. And they should be, because it's not their country's business. It's not their company. And if they want to keep people from seeing the rest of the world on the internet, then it's probably because they're doing something very wrong.
Yep. Oh, for sure. For sure. And of course, Brazil, I think one of the things about Brazil is that there's a lot of questions being raised about whether or not their most recent election was on the up and up.
Yeah.
And, you know, because the Bolsonaro won, like around the time that Trump was in office, Bolsonaro was in office, and he wanted to, essentially, he was a right-wing guy. He wanted, like, you know, more free market, things like this. And he lost under supposedly questionable circumstances, unlike our elections, which are always fair, free and fair elections. But theirs might have been a little sketchy. I mean, it is basically a third world country. So, but no, but so his son, Bolsonaro's son, who I think is currently residing in Florida, has basically been pretty outspoken in defense of his father, as far as I understand it. So yeah, South America is kind of a mess right now, unless you live in you know, Argentina or what's the other country, Salvador, where the guy just like went in and, you know, took all those gangs and, you know, put them in prisons. Although some of the Venezuela sent some of their lovely gentlemen over here. Do you remember when Trump said they're not sending their best? He wasn't lying. It wasn't racist. And like, you guys heard about what happened in Colorado, where
apparently they're now in Connecticut. I just read about this today, and I'm in Connecticut. So
they're in Chicago too. Like, there was a former gang member, Chicago gang member from the South Side, who I guess does a podcast now, and he's like left that all behind. He was like interviewing with somebody, and he said that like the Venezuelan gangs are terrifying the Chicagoans. I'm going to repeat that because I want you guys to really think about this, okay?
Well, of course, Chicago is MAGA country.
Chicagoans are being terrorized by gangs from Venezuela, whereas Chicago already has a gang problem. Okay, but these guys, they're on a whole other level. Like they, with machetes and all this shit. And the guy from Salvador said they are literally satanic. They believe in, blood sacrifice and all kinds of crazy shit. Okay, so Chicago is in really bad shape. And I'm betting that, like, other places like Colorado, and you mentioned Connecticut and New York. I mean, they're having really, really big problems with organized gangs from South America.
They're going to be in every big city in the United States. This is not something
the sanctuary cities.
And here's why. Well, it's not just the sanctuary cities. The federal government, when they bring people in from across the border, they are putting them on buses, they are putting them on planes, and they are shipping them across the state lines to every state in the union. They are sending them everywhere. They are separating families, right? They are separating people from the people they arrived with and sending them different places. They are housing kids with people they don't know in neighborhoods full of people they don't know, and yeah, it's a mess. And so there's a lot going on there, and there is not going to be a place where you can go in the United States where you can be sure that this is not happening, because our federal government is currently ensuring that the immigrants that are being allowed in illegally are everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
They're not sorting them out. They're not making sure that of who is criminal and who is not. They're not even making sure that people who claim to be a child's parents really are that child's parents, and not a trafficker who stole that child from his or her home country and carted them away from where their parents are. We do not even know how many children in the United States have parents at home looking for them.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And this gang that they're not just they're not just Venezuelan. This is throughout numerous South American countries. This has been building up since the early 1970s. Used to be building up in Guatemala. My grandparents were missionaries in Guatemala when this sort of was starting up there, and this has taken place in Mexico. It's taken place in numerous countries that where they have this satanic cult that doesn't just engage in human sacrifice. They engage in live human sacrifice. They engage in what they're doing. I can't really describe because YouTube would boot us, but shoot, I can't think of the number. That Japanese experiment on the Chinese that was so brutal. Let me look really quick. But it's like 749 or something like that.
Yeah.
In any case, if I can remember the number, then I could tell you to look it up.
All right. Well, if you get it, just drop it in the chat, and I'll try to open it in another window.
It was some of the worst inhumane. It was the kind of treatment that would have made the Nazis get chills from how scary it was, what they were doing.
Yikes.
These people are worse than Nazis in the way that they treat their victims.
Yeah.
Children are getting their genitals mutilated. Nazis would be like, whoa there, son. What?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
All right. Well, we're going to move on to the next story. Let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. And hopefully,
Unit 731.
Unit 731.
Maybe that's not right either.
Is there a link? Or did you just send it to me? No.
There's a lot of links.
Yeah.
Japan's infamous Unit 731.
Yeah.
Japan's human experimentation on prisoners, mostly of Chinese, Korean, and Russian descent. There's books about this. What these guys do is similar, except instead of doing it for experimental reasons, they're doing it as a sacrifice or a means of
Yeah.
execution.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that in mind, we're going to move on to the next story. Let us know what you guys think about that in the comments. So last story.
Speaking of weird ass chemical experiments.
Yeah, right. Speaking of experiments. So U.S. doctors are now warning of a rise in contagious viruses as the school season starts back up across the United States. It took us by surprise, the number of cases that we've had, and now we're having schools come back in and various other things, said Dr. Anthony Petkoz, a virologist and professor at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. Petkoz also says that it's hard to tell the difference between RSV, flu, and COVID based on symptoms alone. Fatigue and fever are common symptoms for a variety of illnesses. Doctors are also suggesting to use PPE, such as masks, and to proper social distance to help stop the spread of disease. However, masks have been controversial in the past, to say the least, with regards to COVID-19, with some studies showing that masks had little to no impact with stopping the spread of COVID-19, as most masks were insufficient to block particles. Only N95 masks were sufficient to block particles spreading COVID-19, according to the experts. The best advice, according to the article here, to give people is if you feel sick, no matter what you have, stay home. It doesn't matter if it's COVID, the flu, or the common cold. Staying home and resting is the best anyone can do to stop the spread of disease. And wash your hands, you filthy animals. So it's back, maybe?
It's back. It's going to come back every year. It's going to be different every year because it's a virus and viruses mutate. And it's not as dangerous as it was before, which wasn't as dangerous as they told us it was to most people. But the best things that you can do in regard to preparing yourself for virus season is cut down on your sugar intake, eat a lot of healthy things, get good nutrition, get a good night's sleep every night, right? The normal things that make you naturally healthy make your immune system stronger. Watch something that makes you laugh every day. Laughter helps to make your immune system stronger too. Hug your family. That helps to make your immune system stronger, believe it or not. And don't panic, because panic makes you stupid every single time you do it. And then you end up putting yourself in circumstances that are detrimental to your welfare instead of helpful. And don't let anybody tell you that you're going to die if you don't follow their superstition in regard to this or that virus. Just eat healthy food. Don't overdo alcohol. Don't overdo sugar. Get enough sleep. And love and be loved. And let other people get panicky and worried about it. If you get sick, stay home from work. If you get unusually sick, make sure your doctor knows so your doctor can tell you what you got to do to get better. Like it's really not that hard. It's very similar to the way the flu should be handled.
Mike, I'm sure that you want to say something about it.
Yeah, doctors handled this the same way for not just years but hundreds of years. If you have a sniffle, then drink some fucking chicken soup and some historical equivalent of Sprite. Just boost your electrolytes and your fucking protein and stuff. Like what we being given is advice that you would give to anyone who has a cold. It's so ironic that what I'm now going to call the COVIDiots, we're all saying, "Oh, it's just like the flu, bro." What a fucked up take to say that this is just like the flu. But it wasn't even like the flu. It was a cold. It was only ever a cold.
So is the flu.
Well, the flu's a bit worse than the cold, and that's what I'm saying.
It depends on who gets it. Some people don't really have that much effects from, and then it also depends on which flu, because there are some versions of the flu that barely affect me, but there's one that knocks me on my ass. So
one has to disambiguate what people mean by the cold. There's no one specific thing that's called the common cold. That's why it's called the common cold. Sometimes it's a benign variant of the flu. Sometimes it's a benign variant of a rhinovirus, and sometimes it's a benign variant of a coronavirus. In 2020, our various governments and media convinced us that the coronavirus is something that emerged out of nowhere, like in late 2019. But it's just one of the many variant viruses that can be called a common cold, and that's all it ever was. I don't know if I can say this. I don't know how much I should disambiguate this so we don't get banned from YouTube. But people continue to get common colds all the time because it is literally unavoidable, because that's how much they mutate. But in 2020 and indeed 2021, there were these PCR tests that people brought out that were never designed to decide what is any given disease or other. PCR tests were only ever the inventor of them sort of came out and said this is designed to differentiate one DNA strand from another strand. It's not to tell you whether you have a benign form of the flu or a benign form of the rhinovirus or a benign form of the coronavirus. It's completely misapplied to the idea that you have a novel coronavirus that was apparently brought about by bats in China. This was I don't know how to say this without getting cancelled, but the common cold was reinterpreted in 2020 as a novel disease. That's what happened. The idea that the common cold is reinterpreted as a novel disease is something that you couldn't get across to anyone in any previous generations or probably future generations, because they all understand that the common cold is just a common cold. Sometimes you catch some kind of benign virus that makes it a little bit more difficult to breathe for like a day or two. But our various world governments, influenced as they were by the WEF and these various other government agencies, to terrify you into every time you get a cold, you're like, oh, this is going to kill me. I can't possibly survive the common cold. No one has ever survived the common cold unless they have a vaccine against the common cold. And yeah, they convinced the world that you need not just one vaccine, but 12 vaccines to save you from the common cold. And it's
honestly,
they've tried this. They tried this many times. They tried it with the swine flu. I remember
bird flu.
I remember being forced to deliver pamphlets about swine flu in 2009 or wherever it was. That's what swine flu was supposed to be. That was one of their psyops, but it didn't take off. They tried this time and time and again, and it didn't take off until 2020. And I think the only reason it worked in 2020 because that was the point at which this communism had spread through the general population so much that they had finally become susceptible enough to government propaganda that they finally would believe whatever the TV told them. And I assume they tried this several times before swine flu. I mean, the original SARS 2002, I think it was. That was one of their earliest attempts. They've been doing this for ages. Like actual pandemics really are a century apart, or more than centuries apart. The Spanish flu was something of an anomaly, and ever since then, governments have been looking at that as a way of, as an excuse to control the populace, and that's. I'm preaching to the choir now, but governments will do anything they can to control the populace. And as the cliche goes, if you give government the power to do away with human rights because of a crisis, then they will manufacture a crisis in order to do away with human rights. And this is obvious to you and I, listener, but it is much less obvious to the general masses who get all their information from government propaganda that they don't realize is government propaganda. And yeah, I'm reducing myself to that cliche once again. But if people didn't listen to government propaganda, if people would just realize there's government propaganda, they would just be like, I don't give a shit what the government propaganda says. I know it's bollocks. And this, weirdly enough, is a way in which China is ahead of the curve on us. Whenever Westerners interact with Chinese people, regular Chinese people, just regular working class Chinese people are like, yeah, we don't listen to the news. Why would we listen to the news? We know it's propaganda. It's the news is just it only tells us what the government wants us to hear. Like, why would we listen to that? We're only interested in trying to break through these various shells, these various firewalls on the government, and trying to figure out what's actually going on in the world. And it's one of these greatest ironies that Westerners, Europeans, and Americans don't get that. They watch the television. They watch what's called news being presented to them on the television, and they think it's true. Like, for all the shade we could throw on the Chinese people, no, the Chinese people have figured this out for generations. They know it's all bollocks, but there's nothing they can do about it because they know that the government has taken over the mainstream media. It's just so sad that so many people in the West watch the news, the state propaganda on the television, and they think they're being told the truth. Because they can't, because
they don't know anything else.
Yeah, because the state propaganda in the broadcast media tells them that the only alternative is the internet, and you can't believe anything you hear on the internet because it can't possibly be true.
It's an intellectual laziness. I've watched people learn information that contradicts their favorite news source over and over again, and rather than recognizing that implicates their favorite news source as a potential tool of propaganda, they get mad at the messenger every single time. Right? It's, how dare you disabuse me of my ill-conceived notions based on this propaganda, and how dare you demonstrate to me that this is propaganda. I wanted to believe. And I see that over and over again. It happens over and over again because people would rather let someone tell them what to think than do the work. And it's sad, it's pathetic, and it's led us down a really dark path. It's one of the reasons why people are tolerating the censorship, the crackdowns, the shutdowns, the mistreatment, the theft of their income that's being used to pay women to make stupid choices. All of that is basically a result of people not wanting to have to do the work of thinking for themselves, and preferring to let someone else tell them what to think. But when it comes to this cold, the thing that pisses me off about it the most is it never had to exist, right? It did not. It's the original claims about it, the popular narratives about it, have been debunked, and it's not even questionable that they were debunked. It's widely reported. It's the evidence has been provided widely when it's been reported, right? This exists because humans fucked with things they shouldn't have fucked with, and now we have this, and it's never going to go away. And it has killed people. It is dangerous to some people, and that's by design. It's not an accident. It's not a freak of nature. It's not natural. And that's something that we should all be mad about. Something we should all be heckling our public servants about. What are you going to do about this? Have you investigated this yet? Have you done anything about the people that were involved? What are you doing about the people that were involved? This was a crime against humanity. This makes everybody that's attached to it look bad. That includes you. That includes the American people, since it was one of our bureaucrats that did this. What are we doing about it? And that should be, every politician in Washington should be getting letters and phone calls asking that question and demanding answers, demanding results every day.
Yep. Well said. Just be aware this is happening and prepare to say no. All right. So let me see if there's any super chats or super chows or anything like that before we wrap this up. No, but I did get a super chow yesterday that did not get read out loud, so I'm going to read it. I won't read the whole thing because it's really long, but Nova fan, I see you, and I pinned this one so that we can, I can share it with Allison. I don't know when we're gonna get to it, maybe next week, if anything, but he said it's $5, and he says, short fat otaku dev, why aren't people having kids? And then he includes a YouTube link, and he says there is transcripts so you don't have to watch the full timestamps, and he has a bunch of timestamps regarding the video that he wants us to respond to. Dev uses charts to support the theory that if the economy affecting women's lower childbirth. I don't think that's true. Poor people have more kids. But anyway, we'll go through that on another show, but I wanted to read that out. Thank you, Nova fan. And then Art Force gave us $10 and says Dev is a moron, news at 11. So yeah, I mean, we'll look at it. I don't want to say anything about short fat otaku except he's Canadian, he doesn't get it. So We're gonna go into the patron show now, and we're gonna look at this lovely article called, and I know Hannah's gonna love this. Ellie Sedgwick was going to have surgery to fix her vulva until she asked 500 women to show her theirs. Now she's on a mission to get her book, Flip Through My Flaps, into Australian schools.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So basically, she wants to groom kids, and she came up with a story to excuse her behavior to do that. Did you guys know that there are more kids being molested by teachers than by the Catholic Church and the Boy Scouts combined at their height? Yeah. So anyway,
That does not surprise me.
it doesn't. No. So, anyway, we're gonna go into the patron show to check this out. There's a lot more than just what you read. I know. I say it's a big paragraph. I appreciate that you took the time to give us the time codes, Nova fan. I just don't want to read them all on the air because it doesn't really. There's no context and it doesn't make sense. But I have them, and so I will share this with Allison, and we'll make it a thing. Maybe on Sunday, I'm guessing, but. Anyway, if you want to join us in the patron show to look at this article, you have to become a badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com/subscribe. $5 a month will get you into the Discord, where you'll be able to participate in all of our patron show content. And there's lots of other stuff. There's probably going to be a game night tonight, I assume. And there's often movie nights and, discussions about literature and stuff. And Allison gets really involved with that stuff. So maybe you can like school her on narratives, or she can school you. I don't know. So anyway, that would be feedthebadger.com/subscribe. If you want to join us on the patron show. So with all that said, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. There's a link in the description to all of the write-ups and stories that we covered, and we'd really be interested in your thoughts on the stories. And please, please, please share this video, because sharing is caring. Thank you so much for coming on today's episode of HBR News, and we will see you next Tuesday. They tried to kill him.
Are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.